My second one is, so I watched I I watched I experienced a few different versions of this story this week, Justin. But the pick is the 2018 version of A Wrinkle in
So,
Time.
okay,
Close your eyes. See with mine.
You were a top student, but look at you now. You can't keep using your father's disappearance as an excuse to act out.
Is that his work? What's it about?
Their dad, he wanted to touch the stars. Imagine that the ant here wants to get to her other hand.
The quickest option is to walk across the street.
But it turns out a straight line is not the shortest distance between 2 points.
before you get to what you're going to say about it,
I also listened to the audiobook of it and watched exactly half of the 2003 TV movie version.
So
DVD and video. The Newbery Award-winning novel comes to life
This is incredible.
as Disney presents A Wrinkle in Time. Meg Murray had the perfect family
Whenever you need me, I'll be right here.
until her father mysteriously vanished into the unknown. Now,
Come on, children.
only Meg, her brother, and best friend can find him.
Would you just tell me what you know about my father?
So I know your thesis is going to be that the 2018 movie's bad because they changed a bunch of shit. Well, hold on, let me just say, my not in defense of, but to my understanding, that is the point of that movie. Like, I believe the person who directed it and wrote it, they very much said like the point of that movie was to change the story. Like that was the intent. So anyway, with that in mind.
I wasn't gonna say that it's bad. What I was gonna say is it's an example of it is a reinterpretation,
Yes, that's what I
and
heard.
you either like that or you don't. I don't. I don't
enough.
think it serves the story, and I don't think that the changes that they have made. I don't
So-
think it benefits the story or serves the story or makes it better or improves it.
So for the
I
sake
think
of,
it's
so I was
I
gonna
think
say-
it's just changes, and I'm gonna go into kind of what the changes are.
Okay, because I was just gonna say instead of summarize, because everyone knows what A Wrinkle in Time is. We all read it in elementary school. So just what is different? Let's just focus on what is different rather than what's the same.
Right. I mean, okay.
Other than the
Ignoring
race swapping.
I was gonna say ignoring the very obvious thing, which I don't have a problem with the casting choices.
Not in this case. No.
I don't have a problem with the casting choices. I have a problem with the character motivations that they have done with some of the characters.
So are all the characters still there? Like Charles Wallace is still there. Calvin is still there.
All of them except for the twins.
Except for the twins. Okay, I can see what you
The,
would cut that twins.
the twins just don't exist in this
I mean,
version.
they don't really serve a function in the story. They don't
So
go on
right
the adventure.
away, well, they do serve a function, but I can also understand why they cut it. I see. Okay, I have to be honest. I might have missed a part of it, but I seem to remember in the beginning of the story, they say that they adopt Charles Wallace in this version. He's
the
not
movie.
their, yeah, he's not their born son, but I don't. It doesn't say that in the Wikipedia, and I'm not confident enough to lay money on that. I might have misheard that. Anyway,
Really, because that would be dumb. That kind of a major plot character point with his character is that there's a reason why he is the way he is, and it's because of the dad.
it's because of both of them. Both the mom and the dad are very brilliant scientists.
No, but I mean the superpower bit that comes from the dad. That's a plot point in later books.
Oh, I wouldn't know that. But
Doesn't think it is.
so in the movie right away, the mom and dad are, instead of being like not very well, like subtle secret scientists who nobody really knows, and like they're off the radar. In the movie, they're famous. Like
What?
they're famous, world-known scientists, and it's like a big deal when the dad disappears. In the book, and the original, in like the original stuff, it's like he works for the government, and like he frequently leaves town to go do jobs for them. So when he like disappears, people think that he left his wife and fucked off and just
Oh,
left,
interesting.
right?
See, my memory of it is, I thought they thought that he was dead.
No, they think that he fucked off and like was left his wife basically.
Hmm.
Whereas in this version of it, he is a famous scientist who like disappears. And like it's a big mystery and everybody wants to know what happened to him and it's it's a big deal. Um and like in the movie he pitches, instead of it being like a thing where him and his wife have been secretly toying with the idea of the Tesseract, and then you find out in the book that he was working for the government and they were like testing it in secret. In the movie, they very openly and publicly pitch the idea that the Tesseract is like traveling on a different wavelength, and it's like a big public spectacle, and it's like very, very, very
See, my
public.
thing with the Tesseract is they never, from my recollection, what is it a physical thing that you can use? Like, is it a tool? What?
No,
the book
it's
always describes
essentially
that's the thing with adapting this book is everything is always more of an idea that is hard to visualize, which is why adaptations of this have always struggled.
It was essentially they in the book they describe it as it's leaving it's basically like it's traveling through space and
You know,
time.
but that's what the Tesseract does. What is it?
But it's not it's just it's what you're doing. It is a thing.
Yeah, but
like
you see my point. Like, is it a portal? Is it a box that they use?
It's a concept. It's a way of travel. You are traveling by Tesseract.
Right, but like you know how like a car is a thing.
That's why in the modern movie, they essentially describe it or choose to describe it. Essentially it is what it needs to be. It's a method of travel.
That's going to be my ultimate point when it comes to this story, is that a lot of that book is unadaptable in terms of visualization. So like they never articulate what the
they describe it essentially as you disappear and stop existing. Like you go into a blackness where you don't feel anything, you can't hold hands, you're nothing, right. And then you're just instantly on the other planet.
I feel like you're missing my point.
So essentially they describe it as like like what Goku does, instant transmission.
Right, but it's never articulate. It's vague and
conceptual. Yes, it is. That's what I just told. But it is.
But yeah, but no, you're still describing it conceptually. You're not describing it as
no. What they've described it is how they've described it. That's what it is. You are disappearing and then reappearing. You're going through a darkness where you are nothing. You are no mass, right, no feeling, no nothing, no light, and then you appear. That's not doing no description. That is describing what it is.
But it's described as more of an idea than it is a physical thing. That's why these
No, it's not. I just described what the physical thing is.
But like, for example, like the Tesseract from and the MCU, right? Very easy to understand. It's a cube. Easy to understand. The Tesseract in A Wrinkle in Time is like, well, it's a metaphysical concept more than anything.
It is like, a being of travel.
Right, but
it is essentially you leaving your dimension, traveling through the fifth dimension, and then appearing at another location. Right, it's not an item. It's not a thing. It is a method of travel.
That's my point, though. That's what makes it That's why this book has never been successfully adapted, because the Tesseract, it's not a thing. It's not like it's a portal that they created. It's a metaphysical concept. It's not. So that's why the movies have always had trouble. It's the same thing with we're gonna obviously get into this further, but that's the problem with a lot of stuff in that book. Is it's indescribable. It's based upon a feeling, not a thing that you can visualize.
That's not indescribable. She describes it as you disappearing, becoming nothing, going through a darkness of nothing, and then appearing. That is absolutely adaptable, Justin.
But it's not.
It's just she's just describing teleportation.
Right, but it's not adaptable into.
It's not a nebulous, unadaptable concept. What she is describing is teleporting. When you have in the book the picture of the thing traveling, where it's the ant going across the skirt, it's you jumping from one location to another. But it is not indescribable. No, they do describe it, and you can absolutely have that in a physical media.
But those books never. That book never
and in terms of the modern movie.
Works.
In terms of the, what do you mean it doesn't? Yes, it does.
They just kind of appear on other planets. Like there's no explanation for.
It's teleportation, Justin.
But they never explain the mechanics of it, how it works visually. They don't.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I just listened to it.
But
they describe it as They describe it as going through darkness, being nothing, and appearing in another location.
Right, Jordan,
that is a description.
You're not listening. They've described the feeling of what it is like. They've not described what it looks like visually. Right? That is not but that's not it. No, it's
You're
not.
going through darkness. You're going through nothing. That is a description.
But that's not. It's going through.
Yes,
nothing.
It is.
How do you? What is nothing? What is nothing?
Dark. Black. Nothing.
Again,
dark.
Nebulousness. Right? That's why I'm saying.
No, it's not.
How do you visualize that? And make
the way they did it in the modern movie. They do it where they go through what is essentially a wave in the air. It's dark, and then they're in the new location. That's what's described in the book. It's teleportation, and that's what they do.
It just sort of sounds like they're going through a portal, right? Like I'm just saying. It's
no, you're not listening. It's not like that. It is like they are instantaneously teleporting because that's what they're doing.
But how does it work?
What do you mean? How does it work?
How do you control it? How do you manipulate it? How do you utilize it? Like how do you, in the case of if they're famous, I don't like the change that they're famous. I guess is the point I'm getting at. I don't like the change that everyone knows about the Tesseract. That's dumb.
I don't either.
It's a dumb change. That's my point.
In the movie, in this movie, they essentially describe it as you have to hit the right frequency. Once you hit the and it's stupid and inane. I hate the way that this movie describes it. But essentially they describe it as like once you're on the right emotional frequency, that's how you access it. And then the emotional frequency that they describe it, or that they make it as in this movie, is love. So once you're feeling the correct frequency, which is love, then you are able to teleport. As for how you choose where or when, I don't know. They don't really get the time to explore that in these books. That's not the point.
But that's my thing, right? Is the way you're describing it is they're trying to effectively take a concept from A Wrinkle in Time that just kind of existed to serve how they got to different planets and was really more of an idea than an actual, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the Tesseract in how it's described is not applicable, would not be applicable. It's not Iron Man technology, and the way you're describing it is they make
it's not.
You're making it sound like they're treating it as though it's Iron Man technology, and that's not what the Tesseract is.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that these three ethereal beings, which we haven't even touched on.
No, but I'm not talking about them.
These three ethereal beings are essentially helping the children go to a different place. The dad has no idea what he's doing. That's why he ends up on Camazotz in the first place.
No, but my point is, as you're describing it in the movie, I guess I'm agreeing with you, having not seen it. But what I'm saying is the notion that they're scientists who are using this scientifically. That's not really how it's described in the book. Like it's sort of like
in the book it's described as they are a team of people working for the government who are trying to use this but have no idea what they're doing and can't test it on animals, so have to test it on themselves first. That's how it's described in the book. In the book, the dad is the second person to go off and basically attempt this. There was actually a person who went before him. They waited like a year or two, and the guy doesn't come back, and then the dad goes.
Like it seems to me like the movie wants to be like the dad is going to turn this into a technology, and you have a portal gun, and that's how you Tesseract the place.
No,
that sounds dumb.
Not a technology. More that the like the parents, the mom and the dad. They essentially come up with a formula, which they're like, if X equals Y, then blah blah blah, and the dad is like, well, he essentially ends up figuring out that it's the frequency is the thing that brings it all together, and then that's where he disappears.
Like my thing is the way you're describing it is.
So let me continue with the changes that they have made.
Hold on, let me finish the thought. It just sort of sounds like they're trying to like modernize.
They're trying to rationalize it. They're trying to rationalize
no rationale. That's my thing. Is like
it does have a rationale. That's the thing.
But then
it does have rationale, and this movie changes it and makes it stupid.
I
The
think
rationale is there. If you want the what I would attribute, they don't say this in the book, but what I would attribute to it, and the way that I would logic it is they are essentially when they use a tesseract, they are essentially, I can use the word properly, um, summoning a wormhole that they use to travel. What
right.
what what they, what they describe in the book of an ant being able to jump across the skirt and end up in another location instantly is essentially a wormhole. So if we were to reason this out, what a tesseract is the ability to summon and use a wormhole to travel instantaneously to a different location in space and time.
Now to be
They
fair,
don't describe it as such, but as a person who has experienced enough science fiction and Star Trek and Star Wars, that is what they are using.
to be fair, a lot of these complaints could maybe be a reflection on the book of being like she doesn't articulate her ideas exceptionally well, and like how they're like a lot of the concepts or how the interspace stuff works is more about feeling or more about like when it comes to dealing with it. How do you visualize that on? It becomes difficult other than to do it like metaphorically. You know what
No,
I mean?
no, it is not hard. It is described as a big brain. That is what it is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a literal giant brain.
Yeah, but a lot of her a lot of
That's
the
not
interactions
that's
between
that's really not that hard to show.
the movies when it comes to adapting a lot of A Wrinkle in Time is metaphorical and allegorical, and those become difficult to in a way that isn't just.
So let me continue with some of the changes that they've made.
I'm gonna guess that that's where this is going, where it's a lot of person making a movie taking what is meant to be allegorical and metaphorical and doing it literally.
Let me
that side tells me I'm right.
Let me
That side tells me I'm right.
Yeah, it's one. Okay,
I can tell by the trailer. Having not seen it, I can tell.
So there's character issues that I have with this, which I don't mind. I don't mind creative liberty, but when you completely change a character, that's when I take issue.
Because the book is from first person, right? It's from Megan's perspective.
It's from Meg's perspective.
Yeah. So
it's not really. It's kind of first person, but it's more a third person.
Because you don't see any other character's perspective.
Not really. No, it's mostly for Meg's. Meg's and kind of the greater perspective
when you're
generally.
Looking at a person from because a lot of that is like what a lot of the book is what she is experiencing, and so that's hard to visualize on the screen, which is probably a problem.
So in the book, Mrs. Watson is supposed to be like a tramp, like a homeless old lady. Like
perhaps you should define what a tramp is, because a tramp has
it's a homeless lady.
Yeah, that connotates a different image in today's vernacular.
It's a homeless lady, an old homeless lady.
Charlie Chaplin.
Sort of think like if your grandmother was homeless. That's what the character's supposed to be like.
Old Victorian poor person.
And so they made the character into Reese Witherspoon. I think it's Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, it's Reese
Hold
Witherspoon.
On.
It's the Google. It's Reese Witherspoon.
And in the book, Mrs. Watson is again, because she's supposed to be an old lady. She's very she's nice. She's supposed to be nice to Meg in particular. Like she's like, I love you in spite of your faults. Like I like you, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in this one, she kind of picks on Meg. She's kind of a bitch to Meg the entire time. And like she's like, why did we bring her along? Oh, she's gonna be nothing but trouble. Oh, she's just gonna make things more difficult. Like, oh, and like she's needlessly mean.
It seems like
to this character, and like kind of completely misses the point of that character.
Well, from what I recall of the promotion material for that movie is, they seemed less like the 3 W's from the A Wrinkle in Time and more like the fairies from Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, kind of. I could see why you would make that comparison. They turned Mrs. Witch into Mrs. Watson. Essentially, what Miss Witch is in this movie is what Miss Watson is supposed to be.
Because they clearly didn't want to do Mrs. Witch. Is another example of an unadaptable character.
She's not an unadaptable character.
I'm coming at this from the perspective of a movie executive. It's like there's too much. I get why she changed her. I fully get it.
She's not an unadaptable character.
I fully understand.
You could absolutely have her in there. You could do what the TV movie did, which okay. Short version of this quote unquote review, if you want to call it that. If you want a more book adaptation, a more book accurate adaptation in a visual media, go watch the 2003 made for TV movie, because that's going to be the one that's closer to the actual book.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a fresh take on the story, which is different and arguably worse depending on your perspective, then go watch this movie. I'm not going to say that it's bad, is the long and short of it, because I could go through bit by bit all the differences, but that would I already feel like I'm running long here. If you're looking for a different take on the story, then watch this version, because it's different and it's fresh, but I think it's worse.
Is Calvin a ginger?
No.
Did they race swap him as well?
No, he's still white.
He's still white. Incredible. What was my other question? What is the major bit that they change? Because clearly there's a major bit they change.
I mean, there's quite a bit. Like for one thing, they don't refer to it as it; they refer to it as the it, which drives me crazy.
Yeah. No,
when they go to Camazotz, instead of like them being on an actual planet, which is just a normal planet, it essentially warps them from location to location. So like at one point they're in the suburbs, and then it like teleports them to the beach, and then it teleports them to the building where the dude from Ant-Man who does the recap, I think that's who plays him. He's there, but he's like, instead of him being just a dude like he is in the book, he is literally a puppet. Like he has strings and he has a puppet.
What is the brain? What is it? Do they ever explain what it is beyond just a big brain?
In the original, he's a big brain, which I think it's supposed to. I think it's supposed to be a metaphor for, like, you know, the faceless, bodiless evil that is communism.
Yeah, but big brain, literally, is it an alien that?
He's a big brain that controls the planet. That's what he is.
Yeah, but is he like an alien from another planet that crash landed
there?
No, is he part of some sort of evil empire?
He's just described as a big brain. I don't know what you want from me. That's what he is. He's a big brain.
I guess that's my thing with that's my thing with.
They describe Camazotz. They describe Camazotz as a planet that is given into the darkness, and on that planet it is a big brain. I think what the darkness is on each planet is different, because obviously on Earth there is no big brain, but it is a planet that is dubbed as fighting the darkness. Darkness is just evil. So on evil, clearly the form that evil took is a big brain. I don't know.
But that's sort of my point with that adaptation is clearly.
And as for the major change that happens in that movie, and the thing that irritates me the most is, so the point where they are losing to the brain, and in the actual book they teleport away to the planet where Aunt Beast is. Yeah. They don't do that in this.
No, because
she just refuses to leave, and then they have the final battle with it, which I'm not going to say I don't visually like the battle. I think that, like, if they had done the scene with Aunt It, and then she came back and had this battle, like it actually happens in the story,
yeah,
I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But I don't like that they skipped the Aunt B scene. I understand why they did it,
yeah, to be fair,
but I don't like it. And the reason why it irritates me, because you're going to say, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say they can't visualize her, but they have her.
What?
They have her in the movie. When they go to the not so happy medium and they're looking at all these different planets, one of the things that they show is, and they're like, oh, and that's Aunt Beast, and you see Aunt Beast and she's there, and they reference
so
her.
It's in the movie. They just cut her scene.
In the movie they cut her scene.
Oh, that would piss me off so much worse. Because I'm like, if you're gonna cut her scene, I get why you cut her scene. I get it because you're right.
I can understand.
That's what I would say
because I can understand how it would be difficult, or how you would not want to take the time to represent it. Sure, okay, but if you're gonna show it, then why not have the scene?
Because, like, admittedly, I've never been able to picture Aunt Beast in my. Even when I was a kid, I couldn't picture what she looked like. I couldn't create an image.
I just pictured it as like a solid tube, basically, of fur with tentacle arms that has fur all over it. Because it's described. It's described as a tentacled monster that's really furry, and that's really the most.
I've never been able to visualize. It's the one thing that's why I'm saying a lot of that book is unadaptable in terms of. That's why
I don't think it is.
I'm a little sad that that you didn't get to Aunt, because I remember her being in that TV movie.
Yeah, I didn't get to it. I didn't get to that
being
point.
Like, that's
with
not
that,
what it. But the thing.
But no, it irritates me that when they go to Camazotz, the teleporting around, like, just why do that? Why not just make it a planet? It's just a planet.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of choices where it's like, or like okay.
When you say teleporting around, you like, what do you mean it's not a planet?
I mean, like, they go to the planet, land, and they're in the middle of the forest, and then visually everything around them changes, and they're in the middle of the suburbs. And then visually everything around them changes, and they're at the beach. Like, it's like they're teleporting on the planet. So it's not like the planet. Like, it makes you question whether any, like, whereas, okay, sorry, I'm getting heated. Whereas in the actual story and in the TV movie, they actually physically travel to these locations. So you know that it was at one point a real planet which fell to darkness, right? Whereas in this version, because they're just warping around here, there, everywhere, it makes me as an audience member go like, okay, so is anything they're seeing real? Or is it just like they're inside this dark thing and it's showing them whatever it wants to see?
Got it.
Like, is any of what they're seeing real or not? I don't know, because they're just teleporting from location to location.
Here's
it makes it messy, I guess, is my point.
Here's my thing. Yes, you're right, because I remember in the actual book they just kind of walk to the corporate office building.
Like, they are on a planet, and they walk there, and they're talking to real people that you know are actual people.
That would be my. Well, okay. Here's my movie making answer for why that happens in that movie. The movie making reason is so they don't have to show you them moving from location to location. That's why that happens that way. It's laziness
I get that.
more than anything. But that's my criticism of, and that's what I was trying to drive at. And you're right. And maybe this has been so interesting though. But you're right. It has kind of run a little long. I'll let you wrap up, and then we'll move on to. This is gonna be. I kind of had a feeling it was gonna be a jumbo episode. It's the penultimate episode. It could be kind of jumbo.
My last kind of thoughts on it are like there are choices and there are changes in there that I don't dislike. Like, for example, in the scene where they're on the Uriel, and Mrs. Watson changes into an animal. Or into not an animal, but into a different beast or whatever. In the book, she changes into what's described as essentially like a centaur type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, she's more of like a giant flower/leaf creature.
Yeah.
Which visually, I just think looks better and kind of fits in on that planet more.
Yeah.
So, like, that's an example of a choice that I don't inherently dislike. Also, the fact that Zach Galifianakis is I believe his character is called the not so happy medium. I think is a funny joke, and that's not something that inherently bothers me. Fact that they make it so that him and Mrs. Watson are like dating is weird, but there's choices in there that I don't. And again, the battle between Meg and it, I think visually looks good, and I don't. It's just there's story choices and things that they've skipped and stuff that they've done and like changes to characters that I hate.
Here's my final thoughts before we talk about Daybreakers. Because we still got to do the shit we hadn't seen, and I thought that's gonna be really meaty because I got a lot of shit to say about my stuff.
Mine won't be quite as long on that end, so that'll be fine.
But the thing with the Wrinkle in Time is that book took decades for them to make into a movie, because a lot of that book is happening in Meg's head, and a lot of it is her emotionally reacting to stuff. So the fact that you say that the visualization of her fighting it is interesting to me, because that was hard to do, because it's just her experiencing emotions, and how do you convey that in film language? It's super, and just a lot of like
I could tell you
a lot. No, because I think I might want to watch that one day.
Fair.
But a criticism of the book is that a lot of its science fiction concepts are unexplored or underexplained, because that's not the point of that book. That book is not meant to be a science fiction book. So it's supposed to be metaphorical. But when it comes time to do a movie, that's when you need to explain, where you're like, well, you're right. What is exactly the darkness? Is it a thing? Is it an evil thing? And I think later books did eventually explain what it is. But like, what is it? Is it like a metaphorical representation of the darkness, or is it a literal creature? Like, what is it?
Yeah, that's why in this one they refer to it as the It, and they kind of do try to make it. They try to make it more into a force, more into like a galactus cloud, if you will.
Yeah, like the book. And to be fair, you've listened to it more recently, but from my basic recollection, the book less says that it is just a brain, more just that that's what it looks like. Like, it's not actually a brain. It just kind of more looks like a big brain.
I have to admit, I was listening to it while I was working, so some of the details might have gone over my head. But I believe I might be wrong. Someone go and listen to the Wrinkle in Time and correct me on this if I am. But I believe when they go to the planet of Aunt Beast, and Mrs. Watson and them are talking to them, I think they say that that's just the form that it takes on that planet.
Yeah. The darkness. So like, it's a representation. That's why you say on Earth it doesn't represent itself. But again, I think later books do kind of explain exactly what the darkness is, and that's where I'm saying, like, the Tesseract is not a piece of technology. It's an idea or a concept that these beings are using to travel. That's where I'm like because when an audience member in 2018, that's when this movie comes out.
2018. When
they hear, like, you kind of got to put this in its time, and you got to be like, well, when they hear Tesseract, they're gonna think Avengers, right? So like, the Tesseract from A Wrinkle in Time is different in its in how it kind of.
That's why in this one they're clearly they were like famous celebrity scientists who are trying to research this, and that's why they're like, it's a frequency that once you hit the frequency, it lets you teleport essentially.
But anyway,
because they clearly were trying to be like,
how do we explain this in the dumbest way we possibly can?
The pseudoscience way we can do this.
And I think you're right. I think you're right. Ultimately, like, making them, it doesn't work if they're famous. The story doesn't work if they're well known.
No.
If Meg knows what the Tesseract is already, then all of her experience going for also
she doesn't really.
A Wrinkle in
She
Time.
doesn't really. She doesn't really follow what her parents do necessarily.
That's dumb and arbitrary. Then, don't like that. But what was I gonna say? Them changing and moving shit around always irritates me in this book, because the book's like that thick. Like, it's not a long book. Like really, when you get down to it, there's like 2 locations. Like, not a ton happens in that book.
3 technically. There's Uriel, there's Camazotz, and there's the planet that the Ant Beast is on.
4 if you count Earth.
And Earth if you count.
4 if you count Earth. So like, if you cut
out
Ant Beast, it's 3 locations.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could complain about this version of it a lot longer. I could go into more depth, but we don't have time for that.
That sounds
bad.
That's my sounds bad.
So that's my it was disappointing, to say the least.
So what do you guys think? Is A Wrinkle in Time unadaptable? Let us know in the comments. Otherwise, subscribe. If you want, you click the video on the right. That'll take you to the full podcast, the full version of the podcast. Or if you want, you click the video on the left, and it'll take you to any other video on our channel. Have a good day.